In 1992, a farmer in Zhejiang Province, China, decided to drain a pond near his village. He had done it before. He expected mud, maybe fish. What he found instead stopped him cold. Beneath the water was not a pond floor, it was a ceiling, a carved geometric ceiling stretching down into darkness, with walls that descended further than his lights could reach. He had accidentally uncovered the entrance to one of the largest underground complexes ever found in China. Nobody knew it was there. Nobody had a record of it being built. Nobody knew who made it or why. That was just the beginning. The site is called the Longyou Caves, or in Mandarin, Longyou石窟. They sit beneath Fenghuang Hill, near the village of Shiyan Beicun, on the Ku River in Longyou County, Kuzhou City, Zhejiang Province. When investigators began draining pond after pond in that same stretch of land, they did not find one hidden chamber. They found 24. 24 enormous artificial grottos, each carved by hand into solid siltstone, some of them rising nearly 30 meters tall from floor to ceiling. The largest chambers cover an area comparable to a small stadium. The total volume of rock removed to create these spaces is estimated at around 1 million cubic meters. 1 million cubic meters of stone, cut out by hand, grain by grain, chisel strike by chisel strike. And somehow the world forgot it existed. Here is what makes that number almost impossible to accept. Imagine how long it takes to chip a single bucket of rock out of a solid stone wall by hand. Now multiply that work until you have filled roughly 400 Olympic swimming pools with chipped stone. That is the scale of labor hidden beneath those ponds. Archaeologists and engineers who walk those chambers for the first time describe them as precise, deliberate, and almost alien in their uniformity. The walls, the ceilings, and the stone pillars left standing to support the roof all carry the same repeating pattern of fine parallel chisel marks, angled at exactly 60 degrees. Every surface, every room, the same angle, the same spacing. Keep that detail in mind because it becomes the hardest part of this mystery to explain. But here is what nobody could find. No tools, no rubble, no waste piles from the excavation, no human remains, no paintings, no inscriptions, no historical documents mentioning the construction. For a project of this size in a region with thousands of years of detailed written records, there is complete silence. The Chinese historical record is extraordinarily thorough. Major public works, tombs, temples, even irrigation channels from the same era show up in texts, in administrative logs, in poems, in local histories. The Longyou Caves show up in exactly one place before modern times, a 17th century poem by the writer Yu Xun. One poem, no explanation, just a reference to stone chambers already ancient by his time. So when were they built? Here is the honest answer. Nobody knows. Clay fragments from pottery found in the silt inside the caves have been dated to somewhere between 206 BC and 23 AD, the period historians call the Han Dynasty. That gives a possible window, but those shards only prove the caves existed during that period, not that they were built then. The caves could be older. There is no carving, no artifact, and no text that names a builder or a date. Now consider the engineering problem those 60-degree chisel marks create. Researchers from several Chinese universities and international teams have studied the pattern closely. To keep that exact angle consistent across 24 separate chambers, across walls and ceilings and pillars, over a total carved surface area measured in the tens of thousands of square meters, the builders would have needed a precise, shared standard, a system, instructions that every single worker followed without deviation. That level of coordination does not happen by accident. It implies organization, training, and a plan. But the plan left no paper trail. There are leading theories, and they deserve an honest hearing. The most widely discussed among researchers is that the caves served as a massive quarrying operation, that the siltstone blocks carved out of these chambers were used to build cities, walls, or other structures nearby, and that the caves themselves were simply the byproduct. Siltstone from this region was a known building material in ancient Zhejiang. Some scholars, including researchers cited in studies published through Zhejiang provincial archaeology teams, point to the shape of the chambers as consistent with ancient Chinese quarrying methods scaled up to an extraordinary degree. Under this theory, the caves were never meant to be secret. They were simply work sites, later flooded by rising water and forgotten. A second theory, less accepted but still discussed in academic circles, proposes a ceremonial or defensive function. The chambers are dry, stable, and enormous. Some researchers have noted that in periods of war and instability, underground spaces served as storage for grain, weapons, or treasuries. The Han Dynasty period that the pottery shards point to was a time of consolidation and conflict. A hidden underground complex of this size could have served a military or governmental purpose that someone deliberately chose not to document. Neither theory is proven. Neither theory fully explains the silence in the records, the vanished rubble, or the obsessive precision of those chisel marks. What is certain is this: beneath a cluster of ordinary-looking ponds in eastern China, someone built 24 rooms large enough to swallow buildings, with a geometric precision that still challenges modern engineers to explain. And then the memory of it disappeared so completely that a farmer with a pump rediscovered it in 1992. Whatever the Longyou Caves were built for, they were built by real people with real tools and a real purpose. That purpose has simply not survived, and for now the stone keeps its silence.